Wow, they don't crack the Evolving Wilds. That is mind-boggling to me. Heavens. Greetings, everyone. I am glad to be here, and I am glad that you are here. Today's jank is in Standard, and we are back in Selesnya because, as most of you know, it is my favorite color combination. So, this is probably not going to be a surprise. But what is it specifically we're trying to do? Okay, Vigilance is the name of the game. So, specifically, we're trying to pay off with Frondland Felidar. 3/5 Vigilance for 4, so the stats are fine. Creatures you control... It has Vigilance, right? Creatures you control with Vigilance have pay 1, tap target creature, you know, when you tap it. Or pay 1, tap this creature, tap target creature. So, Frondland Felidar does also gain this ability. It just says creatures you control with Vigilance, and it has Vigilance, so it also has the ability. So, in creature-based matchups, which Best of One has a lot of, we have the ability to just really dominate the board by tapping the creatures right after their untap step, and then they're tapped all the way through their turn, all the way through our turn, and we just get to swing in turn after turn after turn because we have Vigilance, right? So that's the general idea. We're also just trying to have a pretty good aggressive beatdown plan, all things considered. We've got, you know, Speaker of Heavens because of Vigilance, the Murasa Rootgrazer. There's more on this, and we'll talk about that, but Vigilance. One of Taranika with Vigilance, and we're hoping this comes in handy. It's just a one of because it's legendary, but very, very powerful card. And then the Questing Beasts for Vigilance. The Felidar Retreat gives us cats that do not have Vigilance, but the alternative mode is put a 1/1 counter on everybody that you control, and everybody gains Vigilance until the end of turn. So, definitely a good way to confer Vigilance. Elder Gargaroth as a 2 of, but does have Vigilance, and Vivien Monster's Advocate that can create Vigilance creatures, right? So, quite a bit of Vigilance, all things considered. But, what about the beatdown, right? Well, there's Luminarch Aspirant to throw counters around, which particularly with Vigilance means you are both attacking well and blocking well, because your creatures are larger. Then there is Skyclave Apparition for interaction, exiling things, be able to clear the way for all your vigilant creatures, and Banishing Lights, just 2 of, for a similar purpose. And then last but not least, our other Vigilant payoff. When it enters, put a Vigilance counter on target non-human creature you control. So notably, Luminarch Aspirant does not have Vigilance, but is a human. So they can't go over there, but everybody else basically has Vigilance, right? The Gargaroths could get it, but have it. The Questing Beasts have it. Taranika is a human, but it has it, so it doesn't matter. Speaker of Heavens has it. The Murasa Rootgrazer already has it. So the only other one place where the counter can go is onto the Skyclave Apparition, because it doesn't have Vigilance, but it's also notably not a human. So hopefully we don't get stuck without places to put the counter, but I do expect that to be a regular occurrence. It's not in there for giving a creature Vigilance. It's in there for antheming basically the whole team, putting a counter on everybody because everybody's got Vigilance, right? Or just about everybody. Notably, the Keensight Mentors themselves are also humans, so the counter can't go on themselves. So the only creatures in the deck that do not have Vigilance are these 8 cards, right? Or don't have Vigilance and can't be given Vigilance by the Keensight Mentors. But again, being able to throw counters on the entire team, very, very powerful ability and worthy of a payoff right alongside the Frondland Felidar. So, is the deck going to be good? I don't know. It has a little bit of an interaction package. It has a relatively good beatdown plan, and Vigilance is powerful, darn it. So, let's go ahead and give it a try, shall we? All right, folks, here we are up against Gakurin. And yeah, I think this hand is worth keeping. I would not describe it as, the best thing since sliced bread or anything like that, but the Rootgrazer is a good blocker in more aggressive matchups. Ooh, hey, look at that. That's a good way to start it, though. That was actually a pretty good draw. Our opponent may have a shock or something for it. It's true. Yeah, sure. But being able to curve out a little bit here, Definitely pretty nice. Kazul's Cliffs, eh? Interesting. What is going on over there for our opponent? We're going to go ahead and get down a Rootgrazer. That will at least avoid all of the 2 damage burn spells. There are a few 3 damage burn spells that are frequently used, but, you know. They did get rid of a Spikefield Hazard there. That does make me concerned that they might have another Spikefield Hazard. Yes, we will keep that. And I guess it's Luminarch Aspirant time. It is a 3rd Spikefield Hazard, folks. Oh my word. Good heavens. What on earth is our opponent doing? I do not know. Alright, well. Keensight Mentor, come on down. We are going to Felidar Retreat and make a kitten next turn. Alright, sure. Fine. Yeah. Opponent going to play a Fabled Passage and crack it. Sure enough. Brushfire Elemental going up to a 5/5. It is unblockable as far as we're concerned. Ah. That is a very good card, but I think we're still going to just Felidar Retreat, make a kitten. I think this is the thing that makes the most sense. All right, yeah, because next turn we're gonna slam a Vivien, make a vigilant creature, right? Yeah, no, that's fine. Down to 12. Hey, there we go. Yeah. Go up, give it vigilance. And we're just going to go ahead and give everybody counters. And get in. Yep, opponent takes 3. These things are fine. Opponent does have 6 lands, so this Rada can get very big very fast. But does not yet have trample, right? And this does give +X/+X where X is the number of lands you control, so it would get +6/+6. It would be a 9/9 first strike, 10/10 first strike, ladies and gents. All right. Yeah, we're gonna make them do all their things. Yep. I think this is fine. I'm not excited about this. Wow, they don't crack the Evolving Wilds. That is mind-boggling to me. Heavens. All right, well, Frondland Felidar. Gonna come on down. We're going to make another vigilant creature. Yep. And we're gonna pass. Yeah, I mean, yeah, no, that was wrong, I guess. I was going to tap down the Rada so the damage was more valuable, but we can't tap down the Rada because it's got Summoning Sickness, right? Oh, no. Embercleave. Well, that's really unfortunate. We get hit pretty hard. Fortunately, we can still tap down Rada Heart of Keld, but we could have put a counter on the Frondland Felidar rather than the 2 damage, and that probably would have been worth it. So, you know, whatever on all of that. Yeah, Vigilance. And land 1/1 counter and Vigilance. And get in. Yeah, darn it. That was another punt there, I think. Because we're going to use the Frondland Felidar. So, to tap down the Rada, so we could have gotten in 2 more points of damage. It's not likely to matter here, given the texture of the game, but that was incorrect, folks. Boy, oh boy. Not my cleanest game all time. Alright, Frondland Felidar going to tap down Rada Heart of Keld. Sure. And we have lethal next turn, opponent. Got to do something. Bone Crusher Giant going to go to our face and gonna come down. That's not enough. Yeah. So let's just go ahead and I mean, I guess we can do this. I guess that's technically light BM because it wasn't necessary, but you know, if they're gonna make us go through the motions, I guess we'll go through the motions, right? But good game. Got Akroan. They're clearly playing the Gruul aggro deck here in Standard. They definitely kept a really weird hand. Normally this deck likes to be a lot more aggressive, but they kept a very, very reactive hand, which admittedly did do well at the start, but not good enough to close the game. So GG, opponent, GG. Too later on the play. This hand is very good, or very powerful, but there's a strong possibility we just don't even really get to play Magic here. So we're going to send it back and cry just a little bit on the inside. Yeah. We'll keep this 6. No green mana, which is really unfortunate. Definitely want a green mana to be this card right here. That would be the ideal situation. So that we can curve out. If we can curve out with this hand, I think it's pretty good. If we cannot curve out with this hand, I think it's pretty bad. Okay, well. We are moving towards the pretty bad side, but admittedly, the Speaker of Heavens are pretty good. Stormfist Crusader. All right. Sure. Everybody's going to draw a card. That actually is kind of helpful for us. We definitely need to get out of this mulligan. And right now, we're the ones deploying our hand very fast. This card, sometimes people are really reluctant to get rid of because they also draw cards, right? And everybody likes drawing cards. The thing you've got to remember is this card will benefit those that fill their hand, or those that empty their hand the fastest, right? So in this case, we are the ones emptying our hands really fast. So it is beneficial for us right now to be the ones allowing it to stay. All right, opponent, what will you do? All right, they go for the trade. Sounds good to me. We still gain 4 total life. Go up to 20. Opponent drops to... Or we drop to 19, our opponent drops to 15. Turns out we are flooding hard here, folks. Heavens to Murgatroyd. That part is not great. But these Speaker of Heavens growing every turn, very, very strong. Given the texture of this situation. Ooh, opponent has to bolt in the Agadeem's Awakening for the 4th available mana. 2 black and 2 red for our opponent. They drop to 12. Going after the Keensight Mentor with Heartless Act. Very wise. Not likely to win the game if that guy sticks around. Yeah, let's get in with the Murasa Rootgrazer, I guess. Damage just happens, sure. Well, let's cast another one then, I guess. And wait. Everybody takes damage, everybody draws a card. Holy cow, our opponent's Stormfist Crusader is really keeping us in the game here. We are flooding out so hard, folks. Look at this. 5 in play, 3 in hand. We have 8 mana here. Jeez Louise, this is craziness. Our opponent having drawn us the extra 3 cards. 3, I think? Yeah? Very, very important here. Holy cow. Alright, Smitten Swordmaster coming on down. Smitten Swordmaster number 2 going to do some draining. And then presumably also join the party. Yep. No attacks, I assume. This is, not a very favorable board state to be attacking with, I assume. Indeed. Alright. So let's pop a land into play. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's great. That is great. Alright. So everybody's going to pay some life here with Stormfist Crusader. We draw a Luminarch Aspirant. Very, very strong magic card. And we are going to be messing with our opponent's board this turn. They have 5 cards in hand. 10 life. We have 2 cards in hand, 14 life. Opponent carefully considering their options. It's a Fervent Champion to start. This is reasonable. And opponent? Thinking about where to go next. Trying to go to attackers next. Yeah, let's tap down Stormfist Crusader, I guess. And tap down... No, this is fine. I think there's going to be an Embercleave in our future here. So we're going to accept that that is the case. Oh, it's another Smitten Swordmaster. All right, fine. Sure. All right, Luris to the hand. All right, so let's tap down Smitten Swordmaster. And tap down another Smitten Swordmaster. And then Luminarch Aspirant coming on in. Frondland Felidar going to join the party as well. And then we're just going to go ahead and go to combat. Grow up our Speaker of Heavens a wee bit. And get in with the team. You'll note nobody taps to attack. Folks, Vigilance is a very powerful mechanic, to be certain. Opponent facing down 9, 10, 11 damage. 3 of it lifelink here. That is not a great place for them to be. Thinking it over. Drops a Fervent Champion in front of the Frondland Felidar. Malika Rebirth. Opponent's going to pay some life. return the Fervent Champion to the battlefield when it dies this turn. That's fair as far as I'm concerned. Damage all still dealt. All of the things remain as they are. And we just draw an extra card. Opponent drops to 4. Yep. Our opponent having to think about this situation very, very carefully here. And they end up deciding it's time to scoop them up. Folks, don't judge our opponent here. They were in a very, very difficult spot. It still seems like they probably had an Embercleave, among other things, right? They still have 5 cards in hand when you count the Luris. But that's one of those times when you've got to know your Stormfist Crusader is working against you. Getting our opponent more cards was not what they needed here. They were not able to empty their hand fast enough. Normally, you deck Stormfist Crusader because it is a 2-drop, and you're going to have a slew of 1-drops, a slew of 2-drops, and maybe a couple 3-drops, and just get them all on the board. I'm sure that's the way our opponent's deck is built, darn it. They can't have permanents starting in the deck, CMC 2, or I mean greater than 2, right? It's just 2 or less. So it is very, very aggressive. But I think our opponent was sitting on kind of wealth options at higher mana cost, maybe even more than 1 Embercleave, possibly, or something like that. And just not coming up with a way of just playing those cards all out at once. So, however, we were, right? We were able to advance our mana really quickly. We were able to keep tapping down all of our opponent's stuff so that the combat step was profitable for us, but not profitable for them. So they were just in a really, really difficult spot. No question about it. Before, it was one of those things where maybe if they got rid of our Frondland Felidar, they still had a shot. And I'm sure that was kind of the out that our opponent was playing to. Let's get rid of this card. We've got a shot. When we get down our second one, suddenly they don't have a shot anymore, right? So GG opponent, GG. All right, folks, here we are. Yeah, I think we can keep this. The collection of cards in our hand is a touch awkward because we're a Vigilance deck without any Vigilance. We even have a Vigilance payoff with no Vigilance. But considering the density of Vigilance in the deck, I think this is entirely reasonable. So we're going to get down a Luminarch Aspirant this turn. It's going to get a counter. Akum Hellhound going to get a temporary +2/+2. And be joined by Ginger Brute. Ginger Brute becoming unblockable except by with haste. There will be no blocks. We take 3 down to 17. Yeah, I think we're just going to go ahead and Skyclave Apparition. Eat that Hades Hound. Put the counter on Luminarch Aspirant and not going to risk her next turn in combat. Just going to get in for 3. Oh, Raid Bombardment. All right. Sure. Suddenly, it all makes sense, ladies and gentlemen, but fear not. We are also able to beat down when the opportunity presents itself. How about we just casually get in for 10? Our opponent drops to 7. And, of course, we have the Banishing Light for Raid Bombardment, should we choose to avail ourselves to that. Annex, Hardened in the Forge. Coming on down, sure. Opponent going to do that whole blocking thing. We're going to remove Annex from sight. And sure enough, that gives us lethal because our opponent still has a blocker, right? They still have the Ginger Brute left behind. But when we put the counter on either of these, that means they can block the 4 damage, but cannot block 2 of the others. So that means they're going to take 7, which is, of course, lethal. So GG, Nerd Curious, GG. That was a pretty quick one, but that's why you have these aggressive draws in your deck is so sometimes you just curve out and right? That's just the way you draw it up, you know? All right, folks, and we're back checking out the deck one last time, trying to decide how we feel about it. And honestly, I think it performed pretty well. I was mentioning in the beginning part of the video that it shouldn't come up real often that we can't throw these counters around on Vigilance, but like it seemed to happen all the time that we ended up with creatures without Vigilance, but these counters didn't matter. We did draw a large number of these Luminarch Aspirants and the Keensight Mentors that, again, we can't throw the counters around on because they're humans. But to be flatly honest, they're good cards, so we're not too happy or too disappointed to see them. And the Antheming really did come in handy. Putting counters everywhere regularly came in really, really handy. The Taranika, we actually didn't see in any of the games, even the losses that you folks didn't see. I never once drew this card. I don't know how to feel about it. It's a 3-mana 3/3 Vigilance. Should have been good. Has a really relevant ability. So theoretically, could have been good. Never came up, so I don't know what to think about it. That said, the rest of the deck performed pretty admirably, all things considered. The Elder Gargaroths got stuck in my hand a couple of times because we were so busy handling the board with the Frondland Felidars, throwing counters around with the Keensight Mentors, things like that. And we are relatively aggressive. So it's possible these Elder Gargaroths are better as something else. Maybe just like one more Questing Beast, one more Vivien. Just spitting out a bunch of Vigilant 3/3s, probably better than having one Vigilant 6/6. It's also possible that maybe cutting these two and adding maybe just the 2 more Felidar Retreats. When we had it, the very few times we had it, it was very, very strong. So I don't know. It's also possible we just ought to be a little more aggressive, right? So maybe cutting these 2 and getting 2 more 2-drops or something. That could be the way to go. That said, I think the deck was actually pretty strong. I had a fun time playing it. I really enjoyed playing this deck, more than I kind of expected to. Normally, Vigilance is quite strong, no question, but it's best on flyers, because then you can get in and block, and you don't really have to worry about what they're doing, or whatever. But no, darn it, we just got in. We won exactly 3... Well, okay. We lost exactly 3, I can say that. We technically won 4, but one of them, like, we didn't really even play. Like, we got in there, in ranked, right? We just got in there, started doing things, and the opponent basically immediately conceded. I don't know if they thought they knew what we were doing. Maybe they thought we were Selesnya as something else or something, but I don't know. Either way, you guys won't see that game because nothing happened. There wasn't magic there, right? So technically, we won 4, we lost 3, so we were technically ahead. Though admittedly, in games where we actually played the game, it went exactly even. But honestly, it felt really good. In one of our losses, we lost to Mono Red, and it could not have been closer. The score might not have shown it, but we were really, really close to stabilizing. And I think we were, right on the cusp of winning there, all things considered. We had been able to handle the board pretty well, but just couldn't quite get there. And in general, I think that's going to be a favorable matchup. The other loss, if things had broke differently in any one of about 5 different turns, we were going to win. But our opponent was just barely able to cling to life. And they got down the Great Henge and just barely able to cling to life and drew extra cards. And then barely able to cling to life and drew extra cards and kept gaining life. And we were still beating them down. And they were like 3, despite having gained like 8 life or 10 life from the Great Henge. And just almost got there. And just couldn't quite get there in any one of those turns. And then finally, of course, you know how it is. When Great Henge sticks around on board, it will bury you in card advantage, and our deck was no exception. Our opponent finally got there, and it did just crush us. It is possible that's one of the things we could maybe do in our deck, is have that, particularly if we are a Questing Beast, Frondland Felidar, Elder Gargaroth deck. If the Gargaroth stays around, darn it, probably do want it. But either way, when I say that, it's just one of those things where we won a good amount of the time, and even our losses, we were really very, very competitive. I'm really impressed with the way the deck performed. I'm really looking forward to a nice stream. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I have a Twitch stream. That's actually what I do most of the time. I'm still getting the hang of all this YouTube stuff, and I feel like we're finally starting to make videos people enjoy. But the main thing I do is stream on Twitch 5 nights a week, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I stream. I take Fridays and Saturdays off, but 4-hour streams. We have a huge block of time where we're just playing a ton of Magic the Gathering, and folks, we'd love to have you. I'm not a gigantic streamer by any means, but we always have a really good group of people that gather together, and we talk and interface with one another in a very, very friendly manner. I do know how to make friends, and I want you to be one of them. So come on out to the stream and introduce yourself. And, you know, we'd love to get to know one another. So, is what it is. That said, on this video specifically, I'm going to be playing this tonight. So if you have ways you feel like this deck might get better, please tell me down below. It could easily change the way this deck plays tonight on stream, and hopefully help me win a few more games. Even just a couple of little tweaks here and there, 1 or 2 cards, could really make the difference between having a deck that wins 55 or 60% of the time and a deck that wins, you know, 40 or 45% of the time, right? That those couple of extra cards could really be the difference maker, and I just really appreciate it if you help me out there. Just pop down below and let me know. Of course, also, you know, liking, subscribing, and all kind of stuff. You know how that works, but I appreciate it. I really do. So, all that being said, I'll catch you next time.